Hi. Hey, everybody. I'm Corey Rennie. I'm the unemployable counselor, and I'm very excited today to bring you our second interview in our series, Get to Know a Candidate, with today's focus on Bill Powalinsky. Bill is running for mayor of Prince Albert, and we had a very candid conversation about how he views Prince Albert, his role in it, the mayor's role in it, where he wants to see the future lead, and also too some issues that are impacting citizens now, such as homelessness, the downtown core area, and the riverbank. It was a very upfront, humorous conversation that may or may not include a giant billboard. We'll have to watch to find out. Okay, so without further ado, grab your favorite beverage, and remember, if you're liking what's happening here, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out. And in the meantime, sit back and enjoy the interview with Bill Powalinsky, challenger for mayor of Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. And we'll see you after the video. Take care. Enjoy.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Corey Rennie. I'm the unemployable counselor. And I'm here today as part of my series to talk with the candidates running for mayor. And we're very fortunate to have Bill Powalinsky here with us to talk about the mayor race and share a little bit about his vision of Prince Albert and the future. And first off, Bill, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Corey.
I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man at the campaigning and everything going on in the community right now. So I thought we could just jump right in, and could you tell our subscribers just maybe a little bit about yourself and your connection to Prince Albert?
Sure, Corey, thank you. And again, I really appreciate this opportunity to share. I moved to Prince Albert. I followed my heart to Prince Albert in 1984. I'd met a lovely young lady from Prince Albert, and she's still my wife. And we decided to live in PA. And when I came to PA in 1984, it was one of the 10 best places in Canada to live. Now we've moved away for short stints to follow other career opportunities, but every time we had the opportunity to move, we came back to Prince Albert, as we've raised our 3 children here. And my in-laws, my mother-in-law is still alive, she still lives here as well. So we have a very strong familial presence and contact with Prince Albert, and I've worked many years in Prince Albert.
So it goes without saying that Prince Albert is home.
It is.
It is home.
Yeah.
Nice. So you have a lot of, like you said, we've all kind of moved away, but something keeps pulling us back to Prince Albert. Like there's something almost in the fabric of the community. So having that experience of moving away, coming back, especially when you moved here 40 years ago, if I may say that, it was in the top 10 places to live in Canada.
That's right.
And now here we are 40 years later, and I don't think we hold that distinction anymore. So that kind of leads into my question here. What is your motivation then for seeking the mayorship? You know, when clearly if we were in the top 10 40 years ago and now we're not, clearly there's been some things happening there. How's your plan to address that? How could we get to that spot again? I guess
Okay, good question. All of the time that I've been in Prince Albert, I've worked in community development one way or another. Okay. Unlike yourself, I was a counselor with the Canada Employment Center back in the days. I worked with projects. I was a founding member of one of the founding board members with SHARE. Been on the Canadian Mental Health Association board. President of the PA Area Community Foundation, and all of that time, I've seen the face of the community change. Some for the better, some where we've slipped, I would say. And my motivation for running, there's several reasons why, but I think the overarching one is that we need to change. We need to address key social issues at the same time that we're working on economic development. And I feel that without the proper social development, we're going to stifle our chances for economic development.
Okay. You raise a good point, because one thing that I've noticed, I've lived in Prince Albert all my life, except for dalliances with other places in between there. But one of the things that kind of goes back to that is that fact where it's like, okay, like kind of what next? Like Prince Albert's always had about 38,000 people in here. We've never seemed to hit 40 or more. Like it's kind of stagnant at that.
Yeah.
and you mentioned the economic growth, and I think too in that 40-year period from their top 10 to now, we've had some businesses come in, we've had a lot more bigger businesses leave, right? There's the Warehouser and places like that, but like I remember from my youth, we had a brewery, there was the Burns plant, there was all these different things in motion. So what do you think would be the key then to revitalizing that for PA? Like what do you think we need to do, for example, our downtown core, right? Like that's an area that needs a little work. How would you work on revitalizing that, and in particular with some of the social issues we're having down there right now?
Well, that's certainly a complex issue. And, anybody that says they have the answer hasn't obviously heard all the questions yet.
Fair enough.
And number one, I'm a very big proponent of the downtown revitalization for a couple of reasons. Maybe three reasons. One, when I was a youth and came into PA, downtown was very vibrant, bustling, busy, and really an exciting place to hang out. So we've lost businesses, like you mentioned. The interesting thing is the resilience of PA, because even though we've lost some pretty significant industry partners, PA did not go backwards. Our population continued to grow, even though it was a marginal 1-2%.
But it was still rising.
But it was still increases. So when you go back to the downtown revitalization, there was a significant amount of work done by John Gunther, who was the director of development, and that was before COVID. And there was a series of community meetings and throughout the whole city and citizen input. It was a wonderful process. And then there was the riverbank development and the revitalization. So that plan got put on the shelf, and in this last strategic plan of the city, it was to be revived, but the plan was to study it. So I find that quite often when we don't know what to do, we'll study, and we'll do another study.
So almost like the illusion we're doing something, but we just got to study this.
Well, it kind of means that we're stuck, right? And that's not to throw anybody under the bus for their effort in pulling this thing together. We have an issue with aging infrastructure. In any events, we're going to have to do work downtown. So I think that revitalization is key, and we've seen the pattern in other cities, and particularly south of the border, where the inner cities decline. Things move outward for amenities and shops. But eventually it all comes back in, because that's where you have your historic buildings. That's where you have the history in the central core. And what you end up with is some fairly high-end living accommodations. You end up with old buildings being revitalized. You have the little boutique shops, the little restaurants, like downtown. We've got Funky Fresh, we've got the Bison Cafe. You see a lot more of those places develop.
You're right, and I think too, like if like a Saskatoon Broadway kind of vibe,
exactly,
something like that would fit well with our aesthetic here. Hey?
Yeah, Moose Jaw, Winnipeg, Corwin Avenue. All of these little places are pretty exciting.
Well, that's true, and I mean, and that's and I look at Saskatoon, we have a much bigger center. You look at areas of there, how they revitalize those small pockets that they not have been what they once were, but are gathering new things because of new ideas and different takes and whatnot. You mentioned one thing in your previous question, talking about all the social issues, and with your experience working with mental health and that, with the homeless population, especially around not just downtown, but more of our busier areas. You look at some of the box stores, in Cornerstone, and then you have downtown and up on the hill there on 2nd Avenue. There is, it seems like, a large population of street people and street workers out there. So if you became mayor, what would you do to assist that population? Or I should say, what would you do to, how would you handle that situation, I guess?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, that's a really good question. I'll now go back and maybe take a step back to talk about the city's primary function is to provide police services, infrastructure, and improvements to the physical aspects of the city. However, we can't ignore a significant sector of our population who are unhoused, and we can't ignore the fact that this creates some challenges for business and for neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So we've got to balance this. I feel that what people have told me on the doorstep is that they want to see mayor and council front and center, not working behind the scenes, but front and center on facilitating growth and improvement.
Okay.
And I do have a bias as to where I feel shelter should be located. It's evidence-based research that drives it. The thing that we need to look at, Corey, is that we've relied on one agency to really step up and do great community work, and they're currently working on putting in a shelter, but we have a gap. And I've worked with Restorative Justice Committee. We've been, at least in touch with them. When people come out of the correctional system, they come out of remand, and they have nowhere to go. They have no money. They have nothing to support themselves with. So they're unhoused, and they're likely to repeat and go back to jail. We have people with barriers that cause them to maybe not be allowed into a shelter, or maybe they're evicted. They maybe can't live at homeward bound, and that's where the gap is. And we really need to take a look at how we facilitate the gathering of community partners in government. And I'll use an example. There's been a couple of petitions in the city to lobby for services and lobby for physical improvements. And I'm wondering what the power would be if the city was to organize and support agencies in doing a lobby that we could go back to the provincial and federal government with.
Yeah.
Other jurisdictions like Regina have actually put money into the initiative, although it's not their mandate. And in spite of their financial pressures, they felt that it was worthwhile to support it. Peterborough, Ontario was another community that did the same thing. Now, I don't know if we have the resources to do it, but it's the spirit and the intent of community development that makes this thing run.
Well, absolutely. And when you talk, I'm hearing the word transparency, as you said, right? Like what are they doing behind the scenes that if the public knew, might be like, okay, they're working on this, we're working towards a goal here, as opposed to just like, well, no, just wait and see. I understand that. Because even and one of the things you mentioned about infrastructure, first thing that I thought of was when we had the issues with the water back in 2017, right? That's brought up quite a bit in different things, but ours look at the fact that it got to the point where I don't know all the parameters, but our water facility services weren't adequate with what was coming down there, and it caused an issue because, as you said, outdated infrastructure leads to problems today. And a lot of it is that thinking where, okay, it might hurt today, but long term we're not going to have this issue, right? So no, I see where you're coming from there. No, and obviously working with city council will have to work with you with that. City council, they do a good job looking after their constituents, but sometimes working as a group with all those different opinions and ideas is tough to manage. How would you be able to conduct yourself as mayor and get them to not only buy in, but kind of follow what needs to be done? How would you do that?
Well, it's a case of working together as a team, and I think one of the first things is when you gather as a team, you leave your politics and your religion hanging up at the door. You come forward with a serious intention and working together towards common outcomes.
Yeah.
Now, my position and belief might be different from another individual and councillor, but we have equal input. And I think you grind it through. Reasonable people will come up with reasonable decisions. But I also feel that council and mayor should not be expected to be expert on any particular issue. They might bring talents and skills to the table. One member might be very strong in natural resources and business. I feel I'm very strong on the community side. I have run family business, I have run private business, but the bulk of my career has been in this human development field. So my intention is to support council in being a well-functioning team, and to to develop processes where we're respectful to ourselves and respectful to the public, and that we're open to hearing the voices of our citizens, even though they might not agree with us. Maybe it's not a popular opinion, but I think we still need to recognize that everybody's voice is important and needs to be heard. And that's one thing that I've, again, heard on the doorstep, a lot of frustration with a lack of communication.
Yeah.
And my hope and intention is that we can move things forward in the strategic plan, follow the plan, and be really committed to not looking at our personal interests, but looking at the collective interests.
Like working for the greater good, right?
Yes.
Finding the commonalities and working through that to come up with a solution that's agreeable for everybody, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right, it's just like leadership, right? No, that's a good way to be. I'm thinking too, when it comes to city council and working with that, there's a lot of things that come across, and I mentioned homelessness already. So, and even attracting some of those businesses that have left. You talk about economic development, you talk about those kind of things. So once people get here, like, how do we kind of keep them? Because and I'm going to go back to COVID, because you mentioned COVID. When COVID happened, it impacted a lot of, well, it impacted everything, right? Everything was shut down. The small businesses took a hit. And now that we're trying to revitalize those areas, is there anything you see that as mayor, you could go place and say, this is why you should come to Prince Albert for your business?
Well, especially for business, I'm going to take maybe a sideways shift on this, Corey.
Absolutely.
Like I mentioned before, we should not expect mayor and council to be expert, but what we should be able to expect is that we look at the expert resources inside and outside of our community. We use an advisory approach where committees will bring forward recommendations that are well thought out, well hashed out. We've supported by bringing in people from other jurisdictions. I remember when Dale McPhee was looking for a model, he actually went as far as Scotland. And
Yes, the hub course,
that's true leadership when you open the door for that. So if we want to make PA an attractive place, we have to rely on these initiatives, and council's job then would not be necessarily to debate it, but to look at ways that they can fund the support. So if you have an economic development authority, you've got business people, and maybe we sector out these advisory groups. We've got a construction association town. We've got people involved in forestry. They know a lot more than me, and I would like to use their input. We're going to have amenities that will make PA attractive. We're going to have a regional hospital. What we're going to have to do is have a long-term growth plan, because I'm wondering, where will we house? How many kids are going to come to the city? Where will they find space in the school systems?
Can we handle the growth if people start coming, right?
And infrastructure, will we have the capacity to take the effluent from the hospital and run it into our current sewage system? And are we going to continue to pump manhole covers? So all of these things need to be thought out. Demographics are a big thing with future planning and attractiveness of the city. Again, I go back to downtown revitalization, riverbank development. There's so many things that we can do to enhance both the business and the attractiveness of the community to outside people.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned so many things that are community related already that are working for, like, downtown revitalization, riverbank. And one thing you mentioned that I think is key is that, just because a person's the leader doesn't mean he knows everything, right? It doesn't mean that, I'll make the decision because I'm the expert in everything. The more people, I always say, the more people I have around me, the smarter I seem, right? Because it is, because you're getting ideas and perspectives that you might not necessarily have or might have heard, and that might make the difference, right? And it's a lot of times, I think, in positions like with the mayor, like, that's, people don't realize just what a big job that is. It's not, you're not just running around cutting ribbons and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot to it. And that planning piece and how you frame not only today But what does tomorrow look like if we do this? Like it's not just okay, we're going to do this now. There's got to be a plan. And you talking about branching out and getting the people, the right people in the right positions to do that. It's definitely a mayor type role. Absolutely.
Well, I'll point out that we've got a community that's just so involved on the volunteer level.
Yes.
We've got very professional civil servants, and I really feel that the role of mayor and council is to create that culture where our citizens are why we exist, our staff are our most valuable asset, and that leadership, management, staff are all jointly responsible for achieving the mission of the city. But you need buy-in. You need buy-in from everybody, and that takes a while to develop. I'll tell you that I came across the story about a mayor, Stu Young in Langford, BC. In 2016, his community was regarded as one where you'd more likely face violent crime than Toronto. This was on Vancouver Island, very desirable place is the island, but not Langford. 2022, his community was one of the fastest growing communities, very desirable place to live. Crime was just driven into the ground. There was hardly any, I shouldn't say there wasn't any crime, but it had significantly reduced. Homelessness was being addressed. And I thought, well, I've got to meet this guy. So I phoned and left messages at his business, and I didn't get a reply, so I sent him a letter, and I never heard from him, so I continued to phone. Then I sent a second letter with a copy of the first one, and I said, I'm coming out, and I really, really want to meet with you. So I finally got a call back from one of his staff, and they said, yes, Mr. Young will meet with you for breakfast at his restaurant. And my wife and I happened to be down and went to Vancouver Island. And I met with Stu Young, and we had a great meeting. It was sort of the point that where his handler wanted him to say, okay, let's wrap it up. And he kept going, no, we're okay.
We got more time.
So I learned a lot from him. I think some of his approaches, we're not ready for it. I think he has the advantage that the per capita income is a lot higher than PA. But I think there were approaches that he took that we could model ourselves after. So that's my experience in saying I'm going to go outward for input. And I know that here in PA, we've got the resources that need to be pulled together and knit together. And we need to look at, get out of our silos and figure out how we work in an integrated manner, and that we identify what the problem is. And somebody asked Einstein if the world was about to end, and you had an hour to resolve this problem. He said, well, the first 55 minutes I'd be examining where, why, how, where is the problem originating. And I spend 5 minutes on the solution. Sometimes we just jump into a solution because we want to take action, but we really truly need to work through the whole thing.
You raised some good points, because it sounds to me like you're taking a community approach in a collaborative manner, because you need all stakeholders to get invested. And Einstein's right, because if you don't know how something happened, how can you fix it, right? Or at least go back to kind of see, okay, I can see where the bricks started to fall in this wall. At the, I used to say in as a counselor, I used to say, man, if you don't have a strong foundation, the house falls. Doesn't matter. You could build a beautiful home; it's going to crumble, right? And it sounds to me like you want to lay down a foundation at City Hall, which by having a foundation, then you'll get the buy-in from the city councilors, and with the collaborative approach, you get the people you need. Your aces in your places, so to speak, right? You get those there, and then you can kind of enact your agenda with everybody's input. Is that fair to say?
Well, I've always used the analogy of you can't start building a house by starting on the roof.
Very true.
Yeah, so you don't begin with the end in mind, but reverse engineer to say, all right, we want to arrive at this income. What are the steps that we need to do in order to get there?
Yeah.
And it's not always a silver bullet, single shot.
Yeah. It's not always linear either. It's not always a straight line either.
Well, that's the key thing with community development is government typically has an agenda. They'll co-opt the community's agenda. There's timelines, time frames. There's tickies to count, and it's a very top-down process. But to truly make change, you kind of reverse that trend. And you're right; it kind of goes all over the place until you arrive at that outcome. Now, a lot of people disagree with me. They feel that looking at the problem, you know, they say, well, you know, that's really too bad, so sad, get over it. Particularly with poverty and with homelessness. Other people are very sensitive to how do we mitigate what's happened. And I really believe that the too bad, so sad, get over it approach isn't going to motivate people or support them.
Well, no, and here's the point too, like there's nothing wrong with having a mayor that has some empathy and some compassion to what's going on, because that, you know, it's a lot of things can be black and white, but when you're dealing with people, there's a huge gray area there that you have to work with.
Yeah.
So no, I can understand your viewpoint there, and I think you answered this one already. But we're going to ask you, what do you feel is the main thing a mayor should possess coming into this role?
Well, I believe personally that it's possess an open mind, a sincere interest and love for the community, and to really be in touch with what's happening with people on a daily basis and to stay in contact. I've got 3 legs to my three-legged stool. And again, what I've heard on the doorstep is that homelessness and crime and transparency and trust are the 3 issues that are most commonly coming up. People are very worried about debt load, and they're worried about you know, our ability to pay and how long it's going to take to pay. They're worried about commitment for revenue that they haven't seen yet. And to another degree, it's not really the 4th pillar, but when you talk about fiscal responsibility, businesses also want less red tape, less restrictions, more of a positive approach to developing business and really streamlining our operations. And you know, we've seen it happen in other communities. So there's approaches that we can take that'll really make the city better. And I feel that the mayor, in a way, is sort of the cheerleader, but it really needs to work hard with the council. There's only 1 vote on the council, but I think that people look to the mayor to provide true leadership. And that leadership isn't about saying, well, it's my way. True leadership is about facilitation. And it's about making the difficult decisions, or you know, and at some points really encouraging those difficult decisions to be made.
No, and that's right. Like you mentioned about mayor as being the cheerleader, but when I think of the mayor, I think that's like the ultimate public relations job. You're not only representing yourself or the council, but you're representing the whole city. So when that happens, like the light's always on you, but you speak, you know, for the city and for council, and people forget that piece. And I know a lot of times too, I worked in lots of places too, where sometimes ego can sometimes prevent us from getting where we need to go. And I think too, if a person has empathy and they show compassion, and you can elicit that buy-in, because we're all looking at the same horizon. Right? We're just figuring out how to get there, right? We all want to get there together. So I guess, sorry.
And I just want to pick up on the comment about empathy and compassion. A lot of people assume that you're just looking at marginalized people. Empathy and compassion for business.
Yes.
Empathy and compassion for public development. Empathy and passion for hearing the input of people. And again, one of the key things to me, a good leadership, is to give recognition to people who have made things possible along the way. And that goes back to my comment about recognizing that our employees are the most valuable asset. You've got to have empathy and compassion for them. Doesn't mean that you give up decision making, but it means that you're really in touch with that input. and those sets of skills, and to capitalize on it. And again, that just is key to effective leadership.
Oh, you're right, and those traits or skills, however a person wants to clarify them, those aren't like, that's not a sign of weakness. And a lot of times people think being mayor, you gotta have a strong arm, or you have to, you know what I mean? But it's not. It's, you know, you're working for everybody, and it's got to be approachable, and everyone ultimately has to have a voice, right?
Yeah, and I think you need certainly a strong arm when it comes to dealing with issues like crime.
Oh, absolutely.
Because policing is certainly within the city's mandate, and again, support the force through whatever way possible. I'm a big proponent of supporting through the most latest and current technology, and I really believe that we're going to have some challenges. We're having trouble recruiting right now, and I think as and I'm not against the Marshal Service, but I see where we've already lost crew, a significant crew, and it's just going to make it more difficult for us to recruit. So I think we have some systemic issues there that, again, Mayor, as a member of the Police Commission, really needs to be sensitive to, and that's part of that 25-year growth plan, and that's what Port Dover did in Ontario. They spent an inordinate amount of time developing a 25-year plan, and people say, how can you do that? Well, again, you look at where your demographics are taking you. Seniors like me are going to want special housing, different than the typical one-family residence. So are we zoning, developing, and we're getting ready for that big burst of seniors, the boomers?
And it's true, and like, and this one blanket doesn't cover everything, because like you said, right, like people have different needs. And so as it goes across, it's like, you know, a young family has different needs than a single senior has something different, right? That's recognizing those and working with that. No, that's fantastic, Bill. And first off, I want to thank you for your time here. And there's just one more thing I'm going to ask. Is there anything you'd like our viewers to know about you, and what you could bring? Is there any anything you want to? Is there anything you want to share? What would you like, I guess, our viewers to take away from this interview with you today? If they left and thought, man, I watched that Bill interview with that great counselor guy.
That great Corey, yes.
That's right. And but man, Bill, this is what I think. What are you hoping to take away from this today?
Well, I really want people to understand the big commitment that I have to communication with citizens, with groups. I want them to take away the sincerity that I have for the position of mayor. I want them to take away the fact that I've always valued and appreciated city as a home, and I want people to understand and take away that very importantly, I have a balance between social and economic development. I've got a unique set of skills that came from working in provincial government, federal government. I did a special project for the city, ran a family business, ran a private vocational school. I've worked with Sask Housing, I've worked with Sask Power. Some people would say, man, you can't keep a job. but all of those things gave me a really unique set of skills that I'm not a one-track thinker. And I've learned that every experience I've had has rounded out my character, and that all dialogue is meaningful dialogue. And even when you run into somebody in the street and you're exchanging pleasantries, there's something important to be learned from that dialogue.
Nice. And I'm adding one more question here, because
sure.
So in your view, do you think the city needs to be run like a business?
The city is a business, and it's a unique business. It's got many, many different lines. For example, I'm going to maybe go a sideways shift here again.
Please.
But if you take a look at who your customers are your citizens and your tourists. So what you're going to do is make your city, like you mentioned before, you want to make your business as attractive as possible. You want to have value for money. That's another key principle in business. And that is where people want to feel that their investment of their tax dollars is giving them a really good return on what they're paying. It's a business that is multifaceted. It deals with part of the base is supporting the community social development. Part of the base is growth and supporting. And again, with any successful business, you have to have succession planning, and you really need to have a long-term vision. You can't just look from election to election to election and sort of give it all in the last year of the 4-year cycle. Yeah. And we've seen it happen with governments where all of a sudden the last year there's right to the wire, there's a whole series of promises. And whether they're kept or not, I'm not going to be the judge of that, but I feel that in business, you are really, really concerned about bottom line, and you want to maximize growth and potential for revenue. And for us, that's developing all kinds of different tax bases.
Well, and that's a good way to put it too, because a lot of times you're right. That last year, it's like everyone's making the run for the finish line. Mm-hmm. I said this 4 years ago, better do it now. Mm-hmm. Sounds to me like you're more like, okay, I'm looking at this like we're gonna build gradually, get what we need to do, and we're not looking at it as like, okay, I need to do this in 4 years. It's a longer term plan that's actually for the benefit of the city as opposed to an individual. Mm-hmm. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And we've seen that shift where, 12 years ago, the vision was to go in this direction, commitments and promises, and we've shifted direction, and some of these very important initiatives haven't moved forward. So again, with a long-term plan, we're going to be focused and committed to achieving the results that we need to achieve. And I really want to be the leader that's going to bring about change. I really want to be the person that increases the relationship between, I'll say City Hall, and I mean Mayor and Council, with the public and with the staff. Nice. I really want to leave behind, not a legacy, I want to leave behind a really good environment.
Okay. Well, it seems like you definitely have some really good ideas, Bill, and you come across as just a sincere individual, and I'm hoping like everyone should go vote.
And that's it, whether you agree with me or not.
Exactly.
Please get out there and do the democratic, take advantage of your democratic right. A lot of people think, well, my vote doesn't count, but if you look at many, many elections over the last 2 years, they've been close.
Absolutely.
They've been very close.
I look no further than the United States right now. It's razor thin, and it's like that all over the place. And you know what? That's good because it shows there's such a diverse group of people that are looking to get their ideas held and heard. That I think taking the time to do interviews like this to help get your point across, what your vision is for Prince Albert, I'm thinking will be good for everybody.
Yeah, for everybody. And City Council and Mayor have the advantage of not being constrained by a party line, where a lot of times you have to toe the party line. Here we can be very independent thinkers. We have the freedom to make the right choices and the freedom to express that. That's why I really find civic politics fascinating and amazing, and I hope that it'll be very rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, Bill, I just want to thank you again for meeting
Corey.
with me. I know you're a busy guy. And to everyone out there, November 13th, make sure you get out and vote. Thank you for watching. And Bill, best luck in the election. And we'll see you guys at the polls.
Fantastic. I want to thank Bill for sitting down for a very candid interview with the unemployable counselor. There's a few laughs, a lot of information, and more importantly, I think Bill got his point across about what he hopes to accomplish and see for Prince Albert in the next 4 years. So again, I want to thank Bill, and I want to thank you guys for watching this far. If you feel so inclined, please like, share, and subscribe. It enables us here at the Unemployable Counselor to keep making these videos, talking to local people, because ultimately you all are going towards the same end goal of trying to make Prince Albert a better place. And I know today from talking to Bill, he is firmly entrenched in that vision. So, from everyone here at the Unemployable Counselor, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, and enjoy your day. Remember, November 13th, go vote. Make an informed decision. Go vote. Take care. We'll see you at the polls.